Okay, I can lead kirtan.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You are muted, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahans Parivacharya Astotra Sushishma Divanges AC Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahans Parivacharya Astotra Sushishma Divanges Bhakti Siddhanta Sri Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anant Koti Vaishnavin Ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोधाम की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, मायापुर नवदी धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, गंगामयी जमुनामयी की जय, तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय, समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Prabhu.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Thank you, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu. Thank you, Tulsi Priya. And welcome everyone for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami and friends. It is Monday, August 28th, 2023. Tonight we'll be reading in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 22nd chapter, starting with text number 34. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Starting with text number 34. So while Maharaj is resting his voice, your participation is essential. So please share your thoughts, comments, and be ready to read and recite. And Hare Krishna. Thank you for being with us, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, the marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti, chapter 22. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nishnatam Yoga Mayasu Munim Swayambhuvam Manum Yada Brangshati Shiyutum Bhoga Nashekur Bhagavat Param. Translation. Thus, Swayambhu Manu was a saintly king. Although absorbed in material happiness, he was not dragged to the lowest grade of life, for he always enjoyed his material happiness in a Krishna conscious atmosphere. Purport. The kingly happiness of material enjoyment generally drags one to the lowest grade of life, namely degradation to animal life. Because of unrestricted sense enjoyment. But Swayambhu Manu was considered as good as saintly sage because the atmosphere created in his kingdom and home was completely Krishna conscious. The case in similar with the conditioned soul is general. In general, they have come into this material life for sense gratification, but if they are able to create a Krishna conscious atmosphere as depicted here or as prescribed in revealed scripture by temple worship and household deity worship, then in spite of their material enjoyment, they can make an advancement in pure Krishna consciousness without a doubt. At the present moment, modern civilization is too much attached to the material way of life for sense gratification. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement can give the people in general the best opportunity to utilize their human life in the midst of material enjoyment. Krishna consciousness does not stop them in their prosperity for material enjoyment, but simply regulates their habits in the life of a sense enjoyment. In spite of their enjoying the material advantages, they can be liberated in this very life by practicing Krishna consciousness by the simple method of chanting the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakalam Chakshur Amritam Mena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishatam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Gudayad Kamalam Yadupad Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Titham Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhantitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namasute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyo Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So here, Prabhupada gives us a simple method to get liberation or to get Krishna Prema. Just chant Hare Krishna and your life will be sublime. In case of Swayambhu Manu Maharaj, he had a long life. And it's easy to get carried away with sense enjoyment. But because of the Krishna conscious atmosphere, he was able to concentrate his mind on Krishna, and he perfected his life. So in this age of Kali, this is the best method of chanting the Mahamantra. What is our verse says? Kalo naste gatiranyatha. In this age of, Harinam, yes, thank you. Harinama, Harinam eva kevalam, Kalo naste gatiranyatha. In this age of Kali, which is described as Iron Age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the Iron Age. People live short life, always disturbed, have a lot of trouble, and very slow. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave a nice method. He knew our condition, so he said, just chant Hare Krishna and your life will be sublime. Okay, any questions? Surbi Mata, you want to read the chat box, please?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, yes.
Thank you.
There's 2 comments in the chat so far. Ekendra Prabhu says that Manu was absorbed in material happiness would seem to indicate that it was his destiny to live in such an environment. But because his focus was Krishna consciousness, he was able to handle his good karma, while we more commonly see that as soon as people get some good fortune, they blow it. As Mahesh Pandit Prabhu said, they get carried away. And Gurudas Prabhu says, Hare Krishna, it's very interesting that it states in this purport, Krishna consciousness does not stop them in their propensity for material enjoyment, but simply regulates their habits in the life of sense enjoyment. When we also know that a pure devotee, one on whom this process worked, will be completely free of material desires without any danger of them returning.
Thank you for the comments. Nice. Panchatattva Prabhu?
Prabhu, obeisances to all. I, picking up on the same line of thought as Gurudas, I was also looking at the things that Srila Prabhupada was highlighting in the purport. Temple worship and household deity worship, a regulated life, and concluding by saying this simple method of chanting the holy name to the Lord. It sounds to me a prescription for the general, you see, same with the mass of conditioned souls. This case is similar with the conditioned souls in general. So as a general prescription, these things are offered. Temple worship, worship at home, regulation, this sadhana bhakti, and chanting the holy names. It's nice.
Okay, Prabhu, you want to go next verse, please? 35.
Who, me?
Yeah.
We have another hand up, Saraswati Mata.
Pranams to everyone. I was also thinking to Samrat Yudhishthir, whose opulences and resources for enjoyment rivaled even what Indra had. But he not once in his lifetime ever deviated from serving Krishna. And it just made me think, like, for anybody else, that everything that he had, that would be just so easy for somebody to become completely immersed in sense enjoyment and completely get carried away with their false ego. But there was also a line in Mahabharata that brings me to mind when they actually lost everything and were ready to go to the forest. And Subhadra Devi said to Krishna, that such pure devotees and how they've been cheated out of everything. And Krishna said to her, well, at least in Mahabharata, it showed that Krishna said to Subhadra that not every victory is a win and not every defeat is a loss. Hare Krishna.
That's nice. Thanks for sharing that. So I didn't know that Krishna told Subhadra, not every victory is a win and not every loss is a loss.
Not every defeat is a loss.
Oh, okay, right. Defeat is a loss. Nice. Thank you for sharing. All right. Next, Maharaj has something. Surabhi Mataji.
Maharaj says, one time in Detroit, I said to Srila Prabhupada, it's so difficult to convince students to give up sense gratification. He said, we don't say give up, but regulate.
Yes, thank you. All right, next 35, please.
Ayati yamas tasyasan yamasvantara yapanaha Shindvato dhyayato Vishno kurvato bruvata kataha. Consequently, although his duration of life gradually came to an end, his long life, consisting of a Manvantara era, was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada's purport. As freshly prepared food is very tasteful, but if kept for 3 or 4 hours becomes stale and tasteless, so the existence of material enjoyment can endure as long as life is fresh. But at the fag end of life, everything becomes tasteless and everything appears to be vain and painful. The life of Emperor Swayambhuva Manu, however, was not tasteless. As he grew older, his life remained as fresh as in the beginning because of his continued Krishna consciousness. The life of a man in Krishna consciousness is always fresh. It is said that the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening, and its business is to reduce the duration of everyone's life. But the sunrise and sunset cannot diminish the life of one who engages in Krishna consciousness. Swayambhuva Manu's life did not become stale after some time, for he engaged himself always in chanting about and meditating upon Lord Vishnu. He was the greatest yogi because he never wasted his time. It is especially mentioned here, Vishnu kurvato bruvata katha. When he talked only of Krishna and Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. When he heard something, it was about Krishna. When he meditated, it was upon Krishna and his activities. It is stated that his life was very long, 71 yugas. One yuga is completed in 4,320,000 years. 71 of such yugas is the duration of the life of a Manu, and 14 such Manus come and go in one day of Brahma. For the entire duration of his life, 4,320,000 times 71 years, Manu engaged in Krishna consciousness by chanting, hearing, talking about, and meditating upon Krishna. Therefore, his life was not wasted, nor did it become stale.
Nice. Please say something.
I would say something about this phone, but that's reserved for another time.
Oh. Okay, Tusima, hands up.
Okay. I was going to say something.
Please do, Prabhu.
That everywhere I look in this world, and also accordingly to some of my own experience. As one gets older, material life becomes tasteless. Here we're being informed that for someone like Swayambhuva Manu, whose every moment was spent in Krishna consciousness, he did not have this experience. I have a neighbor who has just undergone a hip replacement and who previously was suffering so intensely that he was in tears. He could barely speak to me. And this is a man who had, in his youth, was very strong and flew airplanes and served in the military and did some other things we won't mention. But he was a very gregarious and strong-willed person. And he was gradually reduced to just a quivering shell of what he had once been. And this is the story writ large all over the world. Everyone is suffering in this way as they grow older. And then we have examples like Srila Prabhupada, who even as his body was apparently becoming more and more emaciated towards the end, was amazingly conscious, amazingly productive, and was still guiding a society of young devotees all over the world with every indication from his lips and from his mind and from his books. So there's a vast difference between a materialistic person who gradually sinks into an ocean of despair from suffering both, internally and externally, and a devotee who's actually 100% Krishna conscious.
Thank you. I was going to say, here we go. Krishna consciousness again, Yes. Okay, Tusipriya. You're muted.
I said I had two comments. The first is in the chat box, and the second one I'll just speak. My question in the chat box is, did Swayambhuva Manu perceive his life as being fabulously long, or is his manvantar perceived in an equivalent sense to the 100-year span that humans are allotted? Because we know Brahma lives for 100 years, but there are 100 of his years, and we have 100 of our years. And Swayambhuva Manu, is his lifetime considered like 100 years of his time, or he's living a long time and he knows it? He's just, day after endless day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the Shastra it says the duration of their life is 71 yuga cycles. Mm-hmm. And then you multiply 4.32 million, that many years he lived.
Right.
I think,
but
how's that? She's asking, does Swayambhuva Manu perceive of his life as being 71 yugas, or is it 100 years? I think that's
100 years in his time, because Brahma is said to live 100 years. So I'm just wondering if that's like a special benediction, a special advantage that Swayambhuva Manu has, that he lives like 100 years as we're accustomed to knowing them, and he just gets extra, a lot extra time. Imagine if we were to have that lifespan, we would feel, either incredibly wealthy or terrified. But I'm just wondering how his lifespan is perceived by him. I don't know if there's an answer to that. Wait. Anyways, I don't know if there's an answer to that, but my other question is, it's sort of based on what Panchatattva Prabhu was saying, that even as an aspiring devotee, there's a certain percentage of Krishna consciousness that I have, and a certain percentage of materialistic consciousness, enjoying spirit, that I have. And I can see, being 60, that so many things that used to give me a thrill, even after coming to Krishna consciousness, it's like, oh yeah, this is my little Maya over here, are just becoming tasteless to me. It's like, this doesn't give me the same charge as it used to, but all I have to do is pick up Bhagavad Gita or come to class or talk with my husband, and you feel enlivened, or, have some nice prasadam. And, I wouldn't eat in a restaurant now if you paid me, because it's just like, it's just like, no, it's not as good as what devotees cook. It's not as good as what I cooked, and it's not as prasadam, So, there's a tendency amongst old people that they don't, they become grouchy and they're curmudgeonly and they don't like, this isn't the way it was when I was a kid, and I'm becoming exactly like that. But Krishna consciousness is not like that for me. So even a half-baked neophyte can experience, and the antidote to that, if you want to enjoy, is to become more Krishna conscious, because that is enjoyable. It stays enjoyable. It doesn't fade. So.
Would you like to read in chat box, please, or see what we have?
Sure. Okay. So my husband says, Srila Prabhupada says, at the fag end of life, everything becomes tasteless. And therefore, there's big money to be made in offering people various means of, quote unquote, reheating their sense gratification. Mukesh Prabhu says, in the purport of Bhagavad Gita 9:31, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, should be continued without stoppage. This will protect a devotee from all accidental fall downs. He will thus remain perpetually free from all material contaminations. And Maharaj says, Yata Yamam stale, Bhagavad Gita 17:10, Yamam Gata Rasam. How weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of the world. And that's from Hamlet. Saraswati Mataji says, a devotee's life can never become obsolete, meaningless, because his realizations in Krishna consciousness increase at every moment, as does his love for Krishna. Time cannot affect a devotee in the way it does non-devotees. And Maharaj also says from Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahma came back after 1 moment of his time, according to his perception, but as perceived on earth, it was a year. Yes, so I'm wondering if, again, I guess I'm guessing it might be the same for Swayambhuva Manu, that he's perceiving his lifespan as a normal lifespan, not an interminable lifespan practically. Then my husband says, everything appears to be vain and painful. Seems to be the main theme of the book Ecclesiastes, or so I've learned from reading Vanity Karma. Panchatattva Prabhu says, in previous yugas on earth, people lived much longer. I don't believe that longer life was perceived as the short 100 years or less of our experience. Okay, that's another perspective. And Maharaj says, yes. Gurudas Prabhu says, again and again, we are reminded how much of material life emphasizes the goal of longevity. The victory is in how long you live, whereas in Krishna consciousness, the quality of life is purely and uniquely stressed. We all know of Srila Prabhupada's example of the trees living thousands and thousands of years, but to what end? Maharaj affirms, yes. And then Mukesh Prabhu, time is the dimension of material world. The spiritual world is timeless. The pure devotee of the Lord is already transcended the material world in his divine and pure consciousness. Is this correct understanding? Maharaj says, for sure.
Very well.
Very
well. Mukesh Prabhu, you want to go next, please?
स एवं स्वान्तरं निन्ये युगानाम् एकसप्ततिं वासुदेव प्रसंगेन परिभूता गतित्रया. Translation. He passed his time, which lasted 71 cycles of 4 ages. 71 into 4,32,000. 43,20,000 years, always thinking of Vasudev and always engaged in matters regarding Vasudev. Thus, he transcended the 3 destinations. Purport. The 3 destinations are meant for persons who are under the control of 3 modes of material nature. These destinations are sometimes described as the awakened, dreaming, and unconscious stages. In Bhagavad Gita, the 3 destinations are described as the destinations of persons in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. It is stated in the Gita that those who are in mode of goodness are promoted to better living conditions in higher planets, and those who are in the mode of passion remain within this material world on the earth or on heavenly planets. But those who are in the mode of ignorance are degraded to an animal life on the planet where life is lower than human. But one who is Krishna conscious is above these three modes of material nature. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who engages in devotional service to the Lord automatically becomes transcendental to the three destinations of material nature and is situated in the Brahma Bhuta or self-realized stage. Although Swayambhu Manu, the ruler of this material world, appeared to be absorbed in material happiness, he was neither in the mode of goodness nor in the mode of passion or ignorance, but in the transcendental stage. Therefore, one who fully engages in devotional service is always liberated. Bilvamangal Thakur, a great devotee of the Lord, stated, "If I have unflinching devotion to the lotus feet of Krishna, then mother liberation is always engaged in my service." The complete perfection of material enjoyment, religion, and economic development is at my command. People are after dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Generally, they perform religious activities to achieve some material gain, and they engage in material activity for sense gratification. After being frustrated in material sense gratification, one wants to be liberated and become one with the absolute truth. These four principles form the transcendental path for the less intelligent. Those who are actually intelligent engage in Krishna consciousness, not caring for these four principles of the transcendental method. They at once elevate themselves to the transcendental platform, which is above liberation. Liberation is not a very great achievement for a devotee. To say nothing of the results of ritualistic performances in religion, economic development, or the materialistic life of sense gratification. Devotees do not care for these. They are situated always on the transcendental platform of the Brahma Bhuta stage of self-realization.
Very nice. Thank you. Please say something.
I am unqualified to speak anything. It's beyond my comprehension.
Okay. All right. Surabhi Priya, anybody on chat box? Surabhi Mataji.
Yes. Tulsi Priya Mataji says, thanks for clarifying my understanding of Swayambhuva Manu's lifespan. And Ekendra Prabhu says, going back to verse 35, Srila Vishwanath comments that Manu made compositions in his own words about what he had seen, heard, and spoken. Reminds me of Srila Prabhupada saying that writing was one of the functions of a devotee. And Maharaj says, the transcendental path for the less intelligent, significant.
Yes, I did some calculation, and for Tulsi Priya Mataji's information, Brahma's life is 311 trillion versus Manu's life is 307 million. So there's a big difference, and accordingly, they live like that. Okay, now Surabhi Kunj, 37, please.
Okay. Also, Maharaj says, also avyartha kalatvam. Oh, and Tulsi Priya Mataji has a comment saying, I always appreciate Srila Prabhupada's consistent use of the phrase devotional service. It solidifies understanding of both the goal and the process engaged in by the devotee. It's not just a mood or a feeling. It's one eternal occupation and way of being in any status of life.
Okay, number 37.
Sharira manasa divya vayaseye cha manusa botikascha katham klesha badante hari samshayam. Translation. Therefore, O Vidura, how can persons completely under the shelter of Lord Krishna in devotional service be put into miseries pertaining to the body, the mind, nature, and other men and living creatures? Purport. Every living entity within this material world is always afflicted by some kind of miseries pertaining either to the body, the mind, or natural disturbances. Distresses due to cold in winter and severe heat in summer always inflict miseries on the living entities in this material world. But one who has completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in Krishna consciousness is in the transcendental stage. He is not disturbed by any miseries, either due to the body, the mind, or natural disturbances of summer and winter. He is transcendental to all these miseries.
Yes, thank you. So as in the purport says, we always go through three kinds of miseries pertaining body, mind, and natural disturbances. It's not that we don't feel those pain and difficulties, but we think in such a way that we are not this body, we are the soul, and that reduces the pain a lot. I know it's very hard to think that way, but if we practice chanting Hare Krishna mantra and practice devotional service, that will automatically come in our mind, you know. Okay, Ekendra Prabhu.
Thank you, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu. I find myself constantly going back to previous verses because I think my mind works more slowly than most people's.
Yes.
But when Maharaj commented that the transcendental path for the less intelligent, in reiterating Prabhupada's comment that there's goodness, passion, and ignorance, and each one of them has its, you could say, transcendental path. Like Prabhupada says that the mode of goodness, you're promoted to the higher planets. Passion, you stay in the material world or in the heavenly planets. And then the mode of ignorance, that destination is you're degraded to an animal life. And I can't help but think every day when I walk through my neighborhood here that everyone is so fond of their dog that they would be so happy. They would think this is a transcendental path to become a dog. It seems to me anyway.
Yes. Thank you again, Prabhu. You want to? Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry for not raising my hand, Mahesh Prabhu.
Sure,
Again,
go ahead.
I wouldn't exactly call that transcendental. Becoming a dog. I'm not sure that word transcendental can be applied to that.
Yes. Okay. Next we have Tulsi Priya Mataji, please.
Oh,
Okay.
There's a comment in the chat.
I was going to read that before I started.
Okay, you
Sorry.
can read it.
Okay, well, you can too. Saraswati Mataji says, right now, due to record-breaking wildfires, it's hard to breathe with so much smoke, especially for seniors. I was worried about the breathing difficulties for my 94-year-old father, and he told me, what's the point of breathing if you cannot chant? And then Maharaj says, transcendental is applied to dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, all for the less intelligent. So,
38.
38. Okay. Yaha prishto munibhi praha dharmanana vidhan shubhan ninam varnashranmanam cha sarvabhuta hitak sada. Translation. In reply to questions asked by certain sages, he, Swayambhuva Manu, out of compassion for all living entities, taught the diverse sacred duties of men in general and the different varnas and ashrams.
Go ahead for number 39.
Okay. Itatta Adi Rajasya Manoscharitam Adbhutam Varnitam Varnaniyasya Tadapatyodayam Shrinu. Translation. I have spoken to you of the wonderful character of Swayambhuva Manu, the original king, whose reputation is worthy of description. Please hear as I speak of the flourishing of his daughter Devahuti. Purport. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 22nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti.
Very well. Thank you. Finally, the marriage is done. Now the next is chapter 23, Devahuti's lamentation. Okay, who is
Comment by Mukesh Prabhu in the chat.
Yeah, go ahead.
In purport of 1854, Brahmabhuta stage is attained very easily by the pure devotee. In that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality becomes hellish. The idea of attaining the heavenly kingdom becomes phantasmagoria, and the senses are like serpents whose poison teeth are broken.
Yes, thank you.
Maharaj says,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
Maharaj says, such a wonderful description of the Mahajan Swayambhuva Manu. Jai.
Saraswati Mataji, would you like
Sorry.
to read next verse, please?
Panchatattva Prabhu has his hand up.
Oh, sure. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, just briefly, stopping at text 38, that where it's described as Swayambhuva Manu, out of compassion for all living entities, taught these different sacred duties, varna, ashram, the different responsibilities. I thought that was significant because here we're hearing how Swayambhuva Manu himself is so elevated, but still he's concerned about everyone's welfare spiritually and so forth. So he's giving various different instructions to different persons based upon their particular situations and propensities, so that they can all become elevated. I thought that was a nice verse.
Yes. Yes, each and every Manu, they have instructions for us. It's called Manu Samhita. And we're supposed to follow all that rules and regulations. Okay. Anything in chat box yet? Or
Kendra Prabhu says, I thought it's interesting that the chapter is entitled The Marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti, but we don't actually hear about any marriage ceremony.
yeah, it was done in a forest. So what do you think? Where Kardama Muni was residing. Anyway, let's see. Shall we
And
go on?
Tulsi Priya Mataji says, the ceremony is just a formality. The marriage is when the bride is offered and accepted.
Nice. Yeah, I would like Saraswati Mata to read, please.
Chapter 23, Devahuti's Lamentation, Text 1. Metrayuvacha pitrabhayam prastiti sadvi patim ingeti kovida nityam paryacharat pritya bhavani va bhavam prabhum. Maitreya continued, after the departure of her parents, the chaste woman Devahuti, who could understand the desires of her husband, served him constantly with great love, as Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, serves her husband. Purport. The specific example of Bhavani is very significant. Bhavani means the wife of Bhava or Lord Shiva. Bhavini or Parvati, the daughter of the king of the Himalayas, selected Lord Shiva, who appears to be just like a beggar, as her husband. In spite of her being a princess, she undertook all kinds of tribulations to associate with Lord Shiva, who did not even have a house, but was sitting underneath the trees and passing his time in meditation. Although Pavini was the daughter of a very great king, she used to serve Lord Shiva just like a poor woman. Similarly, Devahuti was the daughter of an emperor, Swayambhu Manu, yet she preferred to accept Kardama Muni as her husband. She served him with great love and affection, and she knew how to please him. Therefore, she is designated here as Sadhvi, which means a chaste, faithful wife. Her rare example is the ideal of Vedic civilization. Every woman is expected to be as good and chaste as Devahuti or Pavini. Today, in Hindu society, unmarried girls are still taught to worship Lord Shiva with the idea that they may get husbands like him. Lord Shiva is the ideal husband, not in the sense of riches or sense gratification, but because he is the greatest of all devotees. Vaishnavam yatha Sambhu. Sambhu, or Lord Shiva, is the ideal Vaishnava. He constantly meditates upon Lord Rama and chants Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Shiva has a Vaishnava Sampradaya, which is called the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya. Unmarried girls worship Lord Shiva so that they can expect a husband who is as good a Vaishnava as he. The girls are not taught to select a husband who is very rich or very opulent for material sense gratification. Rather, if a girl is fortunate enough to get a husband as good as Lord Shiva in devotional service, then her life becomes perfect. The wife is dependent on the husband, and if the husband is a Vaishnava, then naturally she shares the devotional service of the husband because she renders him service. This reciprocation of service and love between husband and wife is the ideal of a householder's life.
Nice, thank you.
So this kind of also we can say with Sita Devi and Lord Rama, that she was the perfect wife. She served him, went with him to the forest. And in terms of young unmarried girls taking, worshipping Lord Shiva for a husband, I remember when this started in our family when I was 5, I didn't want to do it because it was quite a hardship to take on this vrat. And you had to fast for a week and you couldn't have any salt. And there was lots of different restrictions in your diet and everything that you had to do. And I didn't like it very much. And I always used to say to my mom, oh, I don't understand why we have to do this. And because first of all, I don't want to get married. So I don't understand why I have to take this vow if I don't even want a husband. And it was very difficult. I remember my sister used to do it very, very easily. As it turns out, during some of the vrat that we took, I did cheat quite a bit. And I guess the result did come through loud and clear. My sister got a very nice husband. And I won't say very much about my married life. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. So nice. I like it. So we have to follow rules and regulations. That's all. Especially those 4 rules. No meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, and no illicit sex. Thank you. Okay, Tusupriya Mataji.
I was so entertained by Mataji's story. I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, she has Krishna now, so it's all right.
That's right. That's right. Yes. All right. Anything else? Any chat box or anything?
There's a few things in the chat box. So before we read this verse, Ekendra Prabhu asked, did Srila Prabhupada say we aren't expected to follow Manu Samhita?
Manu Samhita.
Maharaj says, in some respects, yes. In others, no.
Okay, Tusupriya.
I just wanted to add something. I remembered what I was going to say, is that when, and this is just very much ordinary, dealings in life. But if a person marries for money or marries for some materialistic reason, it's not like it's not a free ride. You pay for it. If you marry for money, you are going to earn that money. If you marry for power, you're going to pay in some way for it. So, women are foolish if they think just by marrying somebody that they're not going to have to earn that, that earn the opulence that they're seeking. And they're usually going to have to earn it more than they're willing to pay, So I think it's better if you go for the devotee, because then all you have to do is you're serving a person and you're getting everything, you're not trying to squeeze something out of another person and they're trying to squeeze something out of you, you're just both trying to serve Krishna, and the wife does it by assisting, and life is much more peaceful, and you don't think, what have I gotten myself into?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you. All right, Venkatesh Prabhu, next.
There's a few more things in the chat box.
Mm-hmm.
So Maharaj clarified about the Manu Samhita. He said, I've given the example that Srila Prabhupada told Madhusudan Das that the Garbhadana Samskara is not for us. And before that, Mukesh Prabhu said, the gopis also worship Lord Shiva in Vrindavan, and the Lord is still staying there as Gopeshwara. And Guru Das Prabhu said, the young unmarried girls worshipping Lord Shiva are not actually considered devotees of Shiva, in the footsteps of the gopis who are Krishna Bhaktas but worshipped Shiva. And Radesha Prabhu says, the Katyayani Vrat brought to my mind the verse, Devarshi Bhutapta Nirnam Pitrinam. All is taken care of automatically under the shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda.
Very well. All right, Venkatesh.
Right. Am I audible?
Yeah, number 2.
Yes, thank you. Vishrambena atmasauchena gauravena damena cha sushrushaya savradena vacha madhuraya cha bo. O Vidura, Devahuti served her husband with intimacy and great respect, with control of senses, with love, and with sweet words. Purport. Here, 2 words are very significant. Devahuti served her husband in 2 ways, Vishrambena and Gauravena. These are 2 important processes in serving the husband or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishrambena means with intimacy, and Gauravena means with great reverence. The husband is a very intimate friend. Therefore, the wife must render service just like an intimate friend. And at the same time, she must understand that the husband is superior in position, and thus she must offer him all respect. The man's psychology and woman's psychology are different. As constituted by bodily frame, a man always wants to be superior to his wife, and a woman, as bodily constituted, is naturally inferior to her husband. Thus, the natural instinct is that the husband wants to post himself as superior to the wife, and this must be observed. Even if there is some wrong on the part of the husband, the wife must tolerate it, and thus there will be no misunderstanding between husband and wife. Vishrambena means with intimacy, but it must not be familiarity that breeds contempt. According to the Vedic civilization, a wife cannot call her husband by name. In the present civilization, the wife calls her husband by name, but in Hindu civilization, she does not. Thus, the inferiority and superiority complexes are recognized. Damenacha, a wife has to learn to control herself, even if there is a misunderstanding. Sauradena Vacha Madhuraya means always desiring good for the husband and speaking to him with sweet words. A person becomes agitated by so many material contacts in the outside world. Therefore, in his home, life must be treated. Therefore, in his home, he must be treated by his wife with sweet words. So, it's a very famous purport, which is quoted in various places. I personally heard many seminars which actually quote this verse and the purport especially. So here, of course, I think many other devotees can contribute who have more experience with this. Here, this verse applies as the purport says, when serving husband and Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I also have heard sometimes it also applies to when serving Guru. Here, when serving, some things have to be kept in mind, that serving should be done with intimacy and with reverence. These are two important words according to Prabhupada. So here the main thing is that man's psychology and women's psychology is different. So that should be understood and it should be dealt with accordingly. It says that if there's a wrong on part of the superior person, the inferior must tolerate it. And I think it's very much obvious in our life. If somebody is working somewhere, if the boss makes a mistake, the subordinate doesn't just accept it. But otherwise, people complain. Then further, with intimacy means it should not be that we become very familiar and look at faults, but rather try to see how the respect can be maintained. One way here it's quoted that Vedic civilization, the wife cannot call husband by name. In real life also we call somebody by sir, not some name like sir or madam, ma'am, like that. And then further, yes, the subordinate actually controls herself here. Yes, if there is a misunderstanding. So last part is about talking sweet words. So sweet words will help to pacify the mind and actually calm down the mind and opens the heart. So these are very important aspects. I've seen many ideal grihasthas who actually follow all these principles and they've been very successful. Particularly, I can remember in Udupi where I grew up, or particularly I went to my college, there were two proper disciples who came from California. Their names were Haripad Prabhu and Falini Mataji. Maybe Maharaj knows them. Haripad Prabhu just left his body maybe about a month ago, 2 months or so. So both of them I could see very much these principles, that they were very appreciative of each other. And Mataji always served her husband very intimately with great reverence. And even Prabhuji would actually appreciate Mataji many times. He would openly say when there are guests that Devi, you have cooked a very nice prasadam today, thank you, like that. So I could see a very ideal couple in them, and therefore I could appreciate ISKCON and then appreciate the greater culture. So that was a very good turning point in my life, I would say. Thank you. Others can also share something.
Thank you, Venkatesh. Nice. So this is effect of Krishna consciousness. If we follow rules and regulations, and everything comes nicely. Thank you. Anything in the chat box?
Panchatattva Prabhu says the expressions inferiority complex and superiority complex should not be misunderstood.
Yeah, let me follow that up real quickly. I'll try to keep my comment brief. Sometimes superiority complex is used to mean someone who's just on a tear of false ego. He's better than everyone else is less than him. And inferiority complex is used in the same negative way, but I don't think Srila Prabhupada means that here, because he's also using the term friend. There's a very friendly relationship, an intimate relationship between the husband and wife. But at the same time, they have their particular roles, and the wife sees the husband as a superior in the sense that she is providing some service in a loving way. And the husband's also taking care of the wife. It has to be understood in a way that's not misogynistic and not full of the feminist idea, but in terms of friendship and particular roles to make human society progress in Krishna consciousness.
Thank you very much. So we are at the time again. At the end of this time, I would like to Krishna Kantaya Prabhu.
Mother Saraswati has her hand up.
Yes, I just very quickly wanted to say that my mother never referred to my father by his first name ever. And once I asked her, and she said, uttering your husband's name reduces his lifespan. Thank you.
Yes, that's a belief. Yes, right. Okay, Krishna Kantaya Prabhu. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजक स्तोत्र शिष्य डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजक स्तोत्र शिष्य डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोर धाम की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। मथुरा धाम की जय। मायापुर नगरी धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा मई जमुना मई की जय। तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Hare Bol.
Jai. Thank you so much, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu, and thank you, Krishna Konteya Prabhu, for the kirtan. Thank you, Maharaj, for being here and inspiring all of us to speak something.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Maharaj, and everyone else.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, all of you. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Maharaj. Thank you.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jayadvaita Maharaj and friends ki jai.
If we could hear Maharaj, he would be saying, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki.
The key, yeah, that's right. Exactly true. Hare Bol.